What's up, guys? Josh Pate here from 24/7 Sports. It's time. It is time for that weekly Wiltfong recruiting whip around. Steve Wiltfong, National Director of Recruiting here. Let's dive right in, Steve, and let's dive in with Miller Moss, high four-star quarterback out of California. A lot of people are talking about the R word, reclassification. You know more than I do, obviously. Where does he stand, and what would all of that mean?
Miller Moss, one of the top-ranked uncommitted quarterbacks in this 2021 recruiting cycle, the number 5 pro-style passer in the 24/7 Sports Composite, number 51 overall. He wants to stay in the class of 2021. He's not reclassifying. He has the option to reclassify if things continue to go in a fashion where he can't play his high school football season anywhere. Perhaps there's an opportunity on the next level that's very what's the word I'm looking for, Josh? Very advantageous for him to reclassify. I think that it's something that he would consider, and I think it's a subject that has been broached with the schools that are recruiting him. You have USC, UCLA, Alabama, and LSU as his top 4. But again, he wants to be in the class of 2021. He has a lot of things he wants to accomplish with his teammates at Bishop Alemany in Mission Hills, California. It's important to him to just go through senior year in general away from football. But if he can't play as a senior, if he can't play anywhere, he's got an uncle in Arizona he mentioned, but wasn't even sure if that's an option. And hell, Josh, he even said if he can't play, there's still a chance that he wouldn't reclassify. But he's put himself in position to have options. We're talking about a high academic kid, a kid that's taken extra summer school classes over the course of his high school career and then added a couple other classes here in this spring semester just to give him another option. He's a kid that's not only prepared on the football field, but prepared off it for anything that comes his way. And reclassification is something that's there for him if he needs it to be, but he doesn't want it to be.
Thank you for clearing that up, Steve. I know to come to you if I need stuff cleared up. Speaking of options, JaQuincy McKinstry, they call him Kool-Aid where we're from. He is the top-rated, one of the top-rated by any metrics, defensive backs in the country, 5-star corner out of a place I'm familiar with, Pinson Valley High School down in Alabama. We're talking options. He's recently released a top 5. Where do we sit here?
Well, Kool-Aid, we got some great nicknames in the state of Alabama this year. Besides Kool-Aid, we got Scooby Jeremiah Williams there as well, who's a highly touted edge guy from the state. But back to Kool-Aid, he released the top 5. You have Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Georgia, and LSU, so the powerhouses from that region in the mix. I'm really looking at 3 schools from that group that I think have the best shot right now. You have the Crimson Tide, you have the Auburn Tigers, and you have LSU. I think that LSU it has put themselves in really strong position here with what they've done in developing players at the position and the relationship he has with the staff. Pinson Valley High is where Kool-Aid plays his high school football. Home of Bo Nix has strong ties to the Auburn program and ties in that locker room. And then Alabama, Nick Saban being the defensive back guy. A lot of reasons, or a lot of things make sense about Alabama. He's had great visits to Tuscaloosa. I would maybe, depending on who you're talking to, I talked to some people that say Alabama, Nick Saban, not going to let him get away. And I've talked to some other people that say keep an eye on LSU. They may lead this thing for McKinstry. And then Auburn, they kind of always are that program that maybe when they're recruiting alongside those other two, you don't think that they're going to get them, and they sneak up on you, and in the end, it's them. So I think it's still a toss-up for McKinstry. Talking to the family this week, I think that he's still going through the process. Basketball is a huge element here. He's won state championships in both sports. I know he's talking to Coach Pearl and those guys at LSU and Alabama respectively a lot as well. And hearing the plan they have for him to do both sports, and we'll see where this thing goes. But my best sources on it are either saying Alabama or LSU right now for Kool-Aid McKinstry.
It's been a slow start, relatively speaking, from a verbal commitment numbers standpoint for a few programs, Steve. And as recently as last week, you'd hear some murmurs out of Norman, Oklahoma. When are we going to get some more commits? Well, here we are a week later. Oklahoma's getting some commits. And it stands to reason, if we're listening to you, that train's not going to slow down. There's still some better times to come for Oklahoma. So catch me up on the latest with Sooners recruiting.
Yeah, well, the Sooners are up to 25 in the 24/7 Sports Composite Team recruiting rankings. That's number 3 in the Big 12 right now. But they only have 7 commits. If you look at their average ranking per commit, they're working on a top 10 caliber class right now, and the last 2 in the fold. Mario Williams, blue chip top 247 receiver from the Sunshine State, averaged almost 30 yards a catch as a junior, turned 27 receptions into 795 yards in 9 touchdowns. He's been a big play guy for 3 seasons down there, chooses Oklahoma over the likes of LSU. He's also going to play baseball in Norman. Big pickup for the Sooners as they need a big receiver class. They got Marvin Mims last cycle, but wasn't a big receiver haul after taking arguably the best one in 2019, headlined by Jaden Hazelwood and Theo Weiss and Trajan Bridges and those cats. And also landed Clayton Smith. Josh, Clayton Smith had 40 tackles for loss, 20 sacks last year, forced 9 fumbles. He had as dominant a football season as any player at any position had, in my opinion. And that's a big boost for Alex Grinch in that Oklahoma defense. So where do the Sooners go from here? I think that Caleb Williams, the number 1 quarterback in the top 247, is going to end up in Norman. I'm even more confident. I'm as confident. We talk about Caleb Williams almost every week. I'm as confident as I can be that Caleb Williams is going to end up at Oklahoma. They're in the thick of it for some big-time running backs. I would say Kamar Wheaton is probably their best bet. LJ Johnson has Oklahoma in the top 5 right now. They're swinging at Donovan Edwards on the offensive line. I love my crystal ball forecast of Oklahoma for Bryce Foster, one of the top offensive guards in the land. They're trying to make a move for guys like Tristan Lay, Amarius Mims, and J.C. Latham. That's the trio of 5-star offensive linemen in the 24/7 Sports Composite. I think they're in the top 2 or 3 for Savion Byrd, and same goes for Ruben Fothery out of the Lone Star State in Texas. I actually like LSU for Ruben Fothery right now, and not Texas A&M as many perceive. Moving over to receiver for them, we talked about Mario Williams. Emeka Egbuka, they're a finalist for him. He's the number 1 receiver in the country. Came out with his top 4 this past week. I still like Ohio State for Emeka. The Washington Huskies are up there for him as well as Clemson. I would put Oklahoma. They need something big to happen there to get Emeka. But Oklahoma, Jaleel Farouk from Caleb Williams, part of the country there in the DMV. Malcolm Johnson. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them ended up at Oklahoma. And then Christian Leary. They're battling Alabama and Florida for the speedster from the Sunshine State. It's going to be a good defensive class for Lincoln Riley, Grinch and company. I crystal balled Marcus Burris, a top 100 player in the 24/7 Sports Composite defensive lineman to the Sooners this morning. This is Monday morning as we record this. Kevin Gilliam is another guy out of Virginia where the dialogue has been good. I think Oklahoma's on the table for Dallas Turner, Scooby Jeremiah Williams, who we talked about earlier, and Smell Monday. I'm not predicting the Sooners for those 3, but I think they're in the middle of it. Shamar Turner, you talk about Caleb Williams being sky high on Oklahoma's board. The defensive lineman out of DeSoto, Texas, I think Shamar Turner is in that air on Oklahoma's board for him as they battle Alabama and LSU. And in the secondary, still like my Oklahoma pick for Latrell McCutcheon. I think that Kendall Daniels, the number 1 player in the state, a safety, is he grow into a linebacker? I think Oklahoma's in a good spot for him. So a lot of names for Oklahoma right now, as Lincoln Riley and company may have started slow, as you said, but when all said and done, I think this is going to be one of the more talented recruiting classes in the country when you're looking at average ranking per commit.
Steve Wiltfong, money as always. Keep it locked on 247sports.com for all the latest recruiting scoop. Steve, thanks again, man.
Thanks, y'all.